Oh, hey, welcome to Comic Book News. And of course, the comment was right. My headline's wrong. I got a chance to fix it, but the correct headline should be DC drops UCS comic distributors for Lunar and sets a minimum order. So I woke up to Bleeding Cool this morning, checking this out. I also, a little bit before the Bleeding Cool story dropped, I heard a bunch of talk from people in the industry, people in my secret groups, my secret whisper network. Hey, that reminds me. Do you want to learn secrets of the comic book industry? Oh man, you really, really want to join the Comic Book News Whisper Network. So just go click that join button down there and you'll be able to get the inside scoop and hear all the scuttlebutt and back channel gossip that goes on in the comics industry, where we gatekeep and we keep all of the undesirables out of the industry and only allow people that we think are good people in. Of course, I'm just kidding. You can join our subscription group, and you can get, what do you get? You can put some stuff in the credits in the beginning or the credits at the end. Heck, you can even produce your own segment if you want. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about DC Comics. Okay, let's set the stage. What set the stage for this was way back. DC made a move, decided to, they were sick of a monopoly on comics distribution in North America, or so they said, and dropped DC Comics. They were in the midst of negotiations. DC and Diamond had a long-standing exclusive deal. Diamond, for many, many years, for almost 20 years, was the only distribution company allowed to sell DC Comics in North America. And for many years, DC had what some people described as sort of like the upper hand in that deal. They had a lot of control over what DC could and couldn't do, to the point where they even had an option in that contract that they could have bought Diamond out. Like if they wanted to, if they just decided that this was not going to work or something was going wrong, they could have just bought Diamond. So they had this relationship for 20 years. Say what you want about the relationship and say what you want about having a monopoly on comics. For many, many comic book retailers, this was a kind of a double-edged sword because, well, on the one hand, you had one-stop shopping, right, for your comics. You didn't have to juggle all kinds of different distributors anymore. On the other hand, when you have no competitors, you got a lack of competition. So where's the incentive to get better? Many people complained that Diamond lacked some incentives to get better. A lot of people complained a lot about the shipping and some damage problems from Diamond. I personally never had those problems in my years as a shop owner. That may be because I chose and worked with a group of retailers in the Bay Area to get our own freight line and get that stuff delivered on a pallet, kind of shrink wrapped in a giant thing. My damages were minimal, although I did pay more for shipping, I suppose. but in the long run, probably less when you consider damages. Anyway, it's very convenient, especially for a small shop, which is most shops, undercapitalized shops that only have one person running the show. It's very handy to have one-stop ordering for everything. Now, granted, we're in a multi-channel, multi-distribution world now, and relying on a single distributor is probably not wise for a business or an industry. But it is what it is. I mean, Diamond went through the Justice Department and through monopoly hearings. And while it was found they did have a monopoly on the North American distribution of periodical comics, that monopoly was deemed not harmful. And as a matter of fact, many have opined that it maybe saved the comics industry at that time. You know, hindsight is 2020. But I'm going to say the market had contracted so much at that stage that there wasn't much point in enforcing multiple distributors if there was not going to be an industry around to support them. So fast forward to 2020, we're in the pandemic. It hits, and DC decides that that is the ideal time to end their exclusive arrangement with Diamond. Now, mind you, ending the exclusivity, I think, is actually is a good thing. It was a good thing. If they had created more distribution options for retailers, that would have been good. In my opinion, what they did is essentially, well, let's put it this way. If they had kept their books at Diamond and created one or more distributors that retailers could then choose from, then you've got a competition situation, right? And then you've got incentives, you've got players making better, you've got people offering better terms and discounts and service or whatever their individual mix is to try and get more customers. Okay, and that usually translates to better service for the retailer, better prices, and hopefully for the consumer as well at the end of the day. So what did they do, though? They entered in negotiations with Diamond, abruptly ended those negotiations and said, we are severing ties 100% with Diamond and instead are going to two new distributors. They took basically the two biggest retailers in the direct market that turned into distributors. Basically, Discount Comic Book Service became Lunar Distribution, and Midtown Comics became UCS. Now, I know I mixed it up in the headline, and I will fix it pretty soon. The problem is they split that regionally. So they took away Diamond and split it regionally. So literally half the country by state was Lunar, half the country by state was UCS. And you couldn't get books from Diamond. So how did that improve the selection of distributors or change that from a national monopoly to two regional monopolies? I didn't really understand that as being pro retailer anyway. It didn't seem like a great move. It just seemed like you were being forced to change to a new distributor. You had no choice if you wanted to carry DC Comics. And many did. Soon after, as I understand it, I'm no longer a retailer, folks, but I talk to them every day. It was opened up and you were given a chance to choose between the two distributors. Now, could that be what set the stage for this? Could it be that so many retailers preferred what they were getting out of Lunar that they dropped UCS? And the orders plummeted enough that it just wasn't worth DC's while to support two, and they decided to put all their eggs back in one basket, now creating a single monopoly on the distribution of DC Comics anyway in North America. As for abroad, the situation is much more complicated. In bookstores, there's various distributors available. In Canada, even there is sub-distribution available, I believe, through an operation called Universal that eliminates some of the duties and freight fees. We'll have some of our Canadian friends of the show weigh in on this, perhaps. And again, I'm gonna put up some comments here. I see there's some comments. We got 23 people watching right now. DC dropped UCS, not Lunar. Yes, I know that. I'm gonna fix the thing eventually. Pallet shipping rules. This is right. If you're a retailer and you have not investigated getting your stuff not through UPS in individual boxes, but like shipped together by FedEx or another shipping unit, you really should. It's a humongous time and headache saver. Gotham City Comics says it's harmful when half your books are damaged almost every week and they do nothing to fix it. I don't know who you're talking about. Are you talking about Diamond there, Gotham? Let me know in the comments. Bill Whitaker says, given that the reality is exact opposite of your headline, would you be accused of commercial defamation? In my opinion, you really need to change it pretty quickly, but you be you. Thank you for the advice. I don't think anybody's going to sue me for the 28 people watching this. I'll make sure to change it before we go live. And maybe I'll even put a disclaimer. I wonder if I could change it now. Let me see. Maybe I can change it now, but I don't want to stray away from you good people. DCBS has bomb proof shipping, and they're a great company. Good for them. I can't say that that's wrong. I'm not anti-DCBS in any way, although I have reached out to them and they've yet to respond in any way. I would love to interview some of their people. I understand they got a pretty sharp operation there, and I think they would be somebody from that operation would be a great guest here on Comic Book News, talk about this situation, because I'm sure they're good people trying to do good things and just trying to make a business work for themselves and trying to help their customers. Now their customers are also their competitors, so it's mixed up a little bit, but what are you going to do? Gotham City says, you mentioned they were not a harmful monopoly, but they are. I can't go anywhere else to get my Marvel books. Okay, no, what I said, let's pay attention, please. They were deemed by the Justice Department to be a monopoly, but not a harmful monopoly. This was the ruling from the judge, not me. Now, do I think having a monopoly on distribution hurt the comic book industry? Yes, but it's not that simple. I think in the short term, it saved the comic book industry. But in the long run, I'm just going to say it, and engendered a little bit of laziness that exists to this day. I mean, I talk to retailers to this day who say like, oh man, I loved getting my stuff from one place. And that, while that seems lazy on the face of it, you have to look at what being a one-stop shop provides in terms of consolidation of your shipping costs, right? So the ability to order all of your stuff and have that be combined into a discount and not have a minimum on, say, individual publishers, well, that's a good thing for stores, right? And while they might have given up, I don't know what they gave up for that with Diamond. Maybe that the problems with damages. Okay, some people have said that. Some people have complained about the service, but I never saw anything but top-notch service. I mean, Diamond used to put on these retailer distributor summits and things like that honestly, with no competition, they didn't have to do, but I think they recognized made the industry stronger. Steve Geppi had been stepped away from the company for quite a while, but now that he's sort of back at the helm, things are hopefully going to change for the better there, and you're going to get a little bit more attention if you felt like you weren't getting attention. What I found really interesting here is my theory of why did DC walk away from Diamond at the negotiating table. Okay, I have no inside knowledge, period, about that deal. This is completely based on speculation from the outside. I've tried, I've dug, I've asked. Nobody would really tell me what's going on. My theory was that after 20 years of a sweetheart deal with DC, Steve Geppi and Diamond were just wanted to play hardball on the terms of the deal and said, look, we want more points. We've been at the same profit margin on DC for 20 years. And, our operating costs are what they are, and et cetera, et cetera. You need us maybe more than we need you. If you haven't learned your history lesson, then maybe you're doomed to repeat it, that sort of scenario. And take it or leave it, guys. Let's see what happens. That was sort of like, if I was making the deal, that's how I would think about the leverage that I had anyway. I don't know that I would play it with that sort of arrogant attitude or anything like that. Now, as I asked around the industry, people who know, what I found out was that didn't really happen at all. Diamond didn't really get a chance to even make a counteroffer. The deal was sort of just torpedoed in the midst of the deal without much reason why. Now, there's enough gray area here, and there's enough unspoken stuff that I'm not privy to, that I could see it go either way. I could see it being the representatives at Diamond just playing tough and playing hardball, and I could see the same thing from the Time Warner people or whoever, you know, their acolytes are, because, you know, they're like, hey, you know, we're big shots. What are you guys? You're small potatoes. We don't even need the direct market. You think we need you? You got nothing without us, right? So I feel there's a little bit of ego and maybe bad blood, maybe from some past deals, but I have not been able to find the root of that. Because, so without that though, I just say this is a really, really stupid decision by DC. It shows a lot of thrashing. It shows that they're going back and forth and don't know. I mean, maybe part of their plan was, let's try these two distros for 6 months or whatever it's been, pick the best one and go with them. But then that's very disingenuous to the idea of expanding the direct market. The other part of me says it's just what I was sort of speculating a second ago, that they just honestly don't care that much about the direct market, and that they look at the success of, say, Scholastic and other publishers in the book market and the mass channels, and they go, that's what we need to emulate. All this stuff with the 40-year-old guys reading floppies and going to these little comic book stores, fly by night, whatever's that. This is their perception, mind you, not reality necessarily. You know, somebody at the top, if you look at the people that have been put in place as executives at DC, it's clear they come from a publishing background that's very different. It's not about comics. It's about mass market and book trade. And maybe that's good. But what I'm saying is they are missing out on the true dynamics of the direct market and what the weekly market for comics brings to the table in general. Now, it's easy to say, oh, look, we'll just get rid of that. Maybe they'll go digital, maybe not. They'll just do trades and floppies. Well, that just totally misunderstands the economics and the publishing model that they're using, right? Like the floppies, they're print to order. They're never losing money on a single floppy they make, no matter how many they sell, really. People go, oh, the print runs are so small, you can't make money selling X copies. Well, they got such a sweetheart deal ganging all their print stuff together. That doesn't really come into play. They can have, both major players can have books that sell marginally in the direct market, but then sell much better in the bookstore channel or to libraries, to bookstores, online through Amazon, etc. There are so many channels that frankly would engulf the direct market. The direct market is like a rounding error compared to some of these other markets. So they don't really understand, though, the creative dynamics that came out of the direct market comics industry, particularly like in the last 20 years, right? So it's easy enough to look at the Marvel movies and say that, oh man, Stan and Jack created the Avengers and there it is, right? This is true to Stan and Jack's vision. No. Right? It's the Ultimates and Mark Millar's work in the early 2000s under Joe Quesada's leadership, and that really painted what we know as the modern MCU. Now, that's not to say they don't owe a tremendous debt, of course, to Stan and Jack and everyone else that came before them. Of course they do, but it's the modern comics people that understand the properties and the characters enough and understand modern cinema and the modern, because they're fans themselves of everything, of movies and TV and comics. They were able to synthesize that into something that is just utterly watchable. That's what the MCU is. Like it or not, the tone that they've set for those movies and the financial success that's come from it, I lay a large part of it at the creative team in the early 2000s at Marvel for setting the stage for that. So why does that matter? Well, it matters because without these people who understood the comics market, without your Brian Bendis, without your Ed Brubaker, your Joe Quesada, and your Mark Millars, your Warren Ellises, etc., who were looking at comics and synthesizing them with newer media to create the sort of, as Millar called it, like the widescreen comics effect, whatever you want to call it. It was a change in the aesthetics of comics and in the in the sale and the commercial appeal. So the idea that you don't need the comics periodical market, I believe, is short-sighted, is what I'm saying. And that for DC to take all their eggs and put it in the bookstore market and dismiss the direct market is a commercial mistake, in my opinion. But what do I know? They could have definitely done it in a way that was less harmful to retailers. That's the thing. That's the mystery here. Why was it done in such a way? Why did they have to remove themselves from Diamond altogether? They didn't create more choice. They sort of limited choices. So let's go back to the comments. Oh, here's a great one. My favorite comment, the latest one. I don't know how I am a subscriber on this channel. The answer is very easy. You click the subscribe button. You can also click the unsubscribe button. It's really simple. You can click the like thing. You can click the dislike thing. You can leave a comment. I love to hear comments, positive or negative. This was sort of a spur of the moment show. That's why I don't have things planned. I don't have a bunch of graphics or anything. We've got a show coming up on Tuesday. We're going to be looking at Comic Hub again. We're going to be looking at the publisher tools, the publisher side of Comic Hub. People think of Comic Hub as a comic book point of sale retail system, but it's far more than that. It's an ecosystem. It's an environment for publishers, creators, fans, etc. We're also probably going to look at some books. I'll come back to the comments in a second, but we're also going to look at some stuff on the $1 Million Comics Cam, I think, soon. Maybe not on that show, but maybe on the on the following one, we'll do a $1 Million mailbag. Let's get a sneak preview right now of live $1 Million Comics Cam, shall we? I have not showed this too much, but here we go. So I've got all kinds of goodies to show next time. And what do we got? Oh my gosh. Stuff that's come to me in the $1 Million mailbox. Looks spurious sentence by the CFID Recording Club. Wasn't sure what to think, but man, I'm really impressed by what I'm seeing on the inside. Good looking pencils. Can't wait to read that and talk about it. What else? Jungle Lords. Oh my goodness. I looked at this comic. This is a previous effort by this fella, Andy Smith, who's been reaching out to me. In fact, he just Facebook messaged me. And we're going to be looking at this book and his other new book. There's an adults only version of this around. I call his work Bud Root meets Bart Sears. And when we talk to him, you'll find out there's a pretty good reason, it turns out, for that. Oh, and then, man, we're going to look at Coin Op Carnival. This thing is amazing. This is by Ryan Claytor and Nick Baldridge. Now, Ryan Claytor did my bookmark. Went back when I had an online bookstore, comicbookshelf.com, not around anymore. He did this bookmark for me. He was super professional, really had his act together. I was always super impressed. And if you want one of these bookmarks, I still got hundreds of them. So drop me a line. Drop me a self-addressed stamped envelope. I'll give you my address in a minute. You can check it out. Anyway, Ryan must have known, dude, on some level what I'm all about, because this is a comic about pinball. And if you know me, you know I love pinball. It's not just a comic. It's really more of like, I don't know, like a fanzine almost about, and not just pinball, but about electromechanical stuff. And Ryan has gone in real detail here and drawn like the electromechanical relays and stuff that are part of pinball and are just like super cool stuff that I find really amazing and fascinating personally. And I hope you do too. Anyway, Elefina Eater Comics, check him out. He also does his own neon signs, and we'll talk that. We're going to have him on the show very, very soon, I promise. I think that'll be fun. And we're going to be talking to all kinds of new people. We got a new focus. We got a new focus over here at Comic Book News. A little less controversy, a little more comics. That's what it is, guys. I've got things in the works where, you know, because what? If you come out here and talk about anything, if you give your opinion at all, you're just going to get people like this. I don't know what you're adding to the conversation there. I guess it's kind of funny, but not really. Let's go back to the comments. Rick S. says, I want that Batmobile. Yeah, it's a Ford Futura. You know, when you're making the kind of dollars that we're clocking here at Comic Book News, this is the kind of man cave that you can set up for yourself. Gotham City Comics is still not into Diamond. They harmed me. They stole money from us last week even. These are just like accusations that I don't know what to say. I don't see Diamond stealing any money. Maybe you have some problems with their customer service. I would suggest you call their 800 number. You could call DCBS or Lunar, but they don't have one. Let's see. Marvel Unlimited is going from 6 to 3 month delay when it comes to releasing new books. I love it because I'm a customer of the app. Your thoughts on the move? I imagine it's making store owners mad. It might be. To be honest, the store owners used to be really, really worried about digital. Turn of the century, back when I had the store, it was like, oh no, digital is coming. Digital is going to destroy the comic shop. Digital is going to destroy the comic reading experience. Problem is, digital stinks. Right? Not just the reading experience is kind of crappy, just the fact you don't own your comics, you want to rent them. I mean, if that's what you want to do and you just want to read just like you would watch TV shows, which I don't begrudge anybody. Maybe you do. You could check out stuff from the library too. That's fine. Go ahead and do that. But I don't think this is going to hurt anything. In fact, I think what this does is this helps the physical print comic book market. I don't think day and date digital at like half the price or anything is a great idea. But man, I don't know, 6 months later, 3 months later, even, I don't think it's that crazy of an idea. And I honestly think it has the potential to reach more readers. And so it could grow the market ultimately more than shrink them. There's some other comments in here I'm not going to read that don't really matter. Wow, looks sweet. Hi, Dan. Hi, all. Oh, coffee breath's got to go. So do I, guys. We're up on 26 minutes. That's about all I got about this. I'm going to change the headline. I know I got it wrong. I typed it too fast, okay? Big deal. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention is the minimums. Sorry, I forgot to mention the minimums. So they've created this minimum. So you got now a monthly minimum of $500 a month. I believe that's at the retail level. Right at the retail level, $500 a month. I'm just going to assume that's what that means, not the wholesale level. So at $500 a month, and let's just say an average comic is $4, right? Then we're talking about you got to order 125 comics a month. That doesn't seem like a lot of comics considering how many DC puts out. But then again, they shrank their line, so you'd have to get bigger numbers. So for your average shop that's a comic specialty shop, I don't think that minimum hurts them in any way. I think for the really tiny place that uses comics maybe as a sideline through Diamond and they would order some Batman or this and that for people, they're going to be in real trouble. They're not going to be able to get DC Comics this way. They'll probably have to find them some other way. But man, that's the name of the game. That's big stakes comics. So, guys, this is a huge move. Another big move. This is really disconcerting from DC. This tells me, as we talked about in the Bill Shannis interview, right? Not only does DC not have a wartime consigliere in charge, it's all Fredos all the way down. So anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking. Thank you for just engaging and being a part of this thing. I really appreciate it. Oh, wait, a couple more comments here. UCS customer service is atrocious. Took 3 months for them to sort out a DC authorized return, and now they say I owe an invoice from back in April that I already received. Impossible to get help from them. Oh, also, I just want to say they have recommended that any retailers especially, who think that this is not a great move should contact DC Comics and let them know they would like to get their comics through Diamond, as well as through other distributors. Like they would just like the choice of places to make comics and sort of let the market speak for itself. So anyway, now I really am out of time. I got to get back to my day job. But hey, if you want to see your comics here on the $1 Million Comics Cam, you know what we've got now? We've got a post office box. Yeah, that's right. I got one of those things. And you can send it to where? Oh man, to Comic Book News with Dan Shaheen, P.O. Box 1163, Arcata, California, 95518. It's very beautiful here in Arcata, and but we don't have a lot of comic stores, and I certainly don't have the kind of store that's going to carry the kind of quirky and interesting independent work that I love to read, frankly. So if you've got great comics, please Send them where? Where? There? There. Send them there. Because I want to read them, man. I'll put them up on the $1 Million Comic Cam. I will give you a full, honest, unbiased review. I'll page through them. I'll talk about the commercial aspects of it, the artistic aspects, and everything in between. I just love comics. I love talking about them. So coming up next time on Comic Book News, tomorrow night, Stu Colson from Comic Hub is going to talk about the Comic Hub publisher tools. I don't have any closing credits for you this time. Or I do, but they're the same as last time. So should I play those anyway? I guess I might as well. We'll see when next time.
Good day, gentlemen.
Lawyer?
But of course. Now, if I may see a copy of the contract.
Hey, what's going on?
Well, I guess those two had no intentions of negotiating in good faith. Now, aren't you glad you hired me?